Are you noticing that your natural tendency to step back and stay emotionally detached is creating problems in your relationships, career, or inner well-being? This isn't about changing who you are, but about finding balance. Let's explore how your Aquarian traits, while powerful, might be inadvertently causing you harm. This isn't a general caution. It specifically targets how your Aquarian temperament interacts with current astrological transits. Understanding this pattern helps you preserve your clear thinking and autonomy. It also addresses the costs, alienation, missed emotional growth, and professional stagnation. You likely prize rationality, innovation, and a progressive worldview. Aquarians often feel more comfortable with ideas than with feelings, preferring conceptual distance. Recognizing the adaptive function of your detachment is the first step toward recalibrating it. Your sign is associated with objectivity, uniqueness, and a future-focused mentality. These traits help you think clearly under pressure and generate unconventional solutions. However, they can also make you appear aloof or unwilling to engage emotionally. You use detachment as a protective mechanism when overwhelmed or when emotional entanglement feels like a liability. This can be useful short-term. It becomes harmful when it prevents deep bonds, conflict resolution, or acknowledging internal pain. Astrology provides a framework to understand why you might feel more inclined to detach at certain times. Several planetary dynamics tend to amplify Aquarian detachment. Recognizing these influences helps you choose timing and strategies more effectively. As your planetary ruler, Uranus amplifies your need for independence and sudden insights. Under strong Uranian activation, you may cut ties abruptly to safeguard your individuality. This spontaneity can be liberating but destabilizing for close relationships. Saturn transits often require you to face responsibilities and limitations. When Saturn promotes isolation, you might feel compelled to shoulder burdens alone. This can be a growth opportunity if you accept help, or a source of chronic loneliness if you refuse support. Neptune can blur boundaries and create emotional confusion. If Neptune presses on your chart, you may rationalize withdrawal or confuse detachment with compassion. Neptune can also lead you to idealize distant connections instead of cultivating present intimacy. You can identify the problem with observable patterns in relationships, work, and self-care. Here's a practical checklist to determine if your detachment is causing damage. You consistently avoid emotional conversations, steering interactions toward abstract topics. Friends or partners complain that you are emotionally unavailable or hard to read. You might miss social cues or fail to respond to others' emotional needs in timely ways. Professionally, you might withdraw from team collaborations or avoid leadership roles requiring empathy. You may underutilize networking opportunities, preferring solitude or intellectual work. Your creative projects might stall because you resist emotionally investing in ideas or collaborators. Internally, you may experience persistent feelings of loneliness, even when surrounded by people. You might use detachment to suppress anxiety, grief, or other uncomfortable emotions. Your sleep, appetite, or energy levels could suffer from unresolved emotional tension. When detachment is habitual, its impacts accumulate across multiple life domains. Understanding these trajectories will motivate you to adopt corrective behaviors. You may notice immediate effects like miscommunications, cold interactions, and missed opportunities for connection. Short, sharp conflicts may become long-running disagreements because you avoid addressing the emotional core. Over time, chronic detachment can lead to eroded relationships, professional isolation, and a diminished capacity for emotional regulation. It can also shape how others perceive you, distant, unreliable, or indifferent, making future reconnection more difficult. Your closest relationships are most vulnerable to the effects of detachment. Partners, family members, and close friends require emotional availability and responsiveness to feel secure. When you withdraw, partners may interpret it as disinterest or rejection. In intimate partnerships, emotional attunement builds trust. This can trigger anxiety in them, pushing them to seek reassurance or distance themselves. This creates a feedback loop that increases your tendency to withdraw further. Family often brings unresolved historical patterns. Your detachment can be interpreted as avoidance of family obligations or emotional ties. This potentially exacerbates long-standing tensions, leading family members to stop reaching out. Friendships require reciprocity, emotional sharing, time, and effort. If you habitually prioritize intellectual or solitary pursuits, friendships may wane. You may retain acquaintances, but lose deep, sustaining connections. Your analytical approach serves you well in roles requiring innovation and technical skill. However, it can limit advancement where emotional intelligence, collaboration, and political savvy matter. Effective leaders balance objectivity with emotional intelligence. If you consistently take a detached stance, teams may perceive you as unapproachable or unsupportive. This weakens morale and undermines your ability to motivate others. Your tendency to keep interactions impersonal can reduce your visibility and support in professional circles. Career advancement often depends on relationships, sponsorship, and mutual goodwill. These are areas where emotional engagement truly matters. While detachment fosters novel thought, some creative work requires vulnerability and emotional risk. If you avoid emotional investment, you may produce technically brilliant but emotionally hollow work. This work might fail to resonate with others. Detachment is often used to regulate emotions, but emotional suppression has measurable health consequences. Chronic emotional suppression elevates stress hormones, impairing cognitive function and immune response. Over time, you may experience anxiety, depression, or psychosomatic symptoms. Emotional avoidance disrupted by stress can affect sleep quality and circadian rhythms. You might notice insomnia, fatigue, or changes in appetite that further impair your functioning. Prolonged detachment and unprocessed emotions can contribute to cardiovascular risk, gastrointestinal issues, and chronic pain. Addressing emotional health reduces these physiological risks and improves resilience. You do not need to abandon Aquarian strengths. The goal is to modulate detachment so you maintain autonomy and clarity. Simultaneously, cultivate emotional responsiveness and deeper relationships. First, observe how and when you withdraw without judgment. Awareness creates choice. Keep a short log of situations when you detach and what feelings, thoughts, or triggers preceded that response. Rather than forcing full vulnerability, introduce small, manageable acts of emotional sharing. Start with low-risk disclosures and gradually increase depth as you build tolerance and trust. When you analyze someone's issue, simultaneously ask about their emotions and your own. Use questions like, "What did that feel like for you?" and "What is this bringing up for me?" This practice integrates thinking and feeling. Here are specific exercises you can implement to shift patterns without discarding your analytical strengths. Set a timer for 3 minutes during a conversation to ask one emotional question. What's the hardest part of this for you right now? Maintain curiosity without fixing. Repeat this daily with a close contact to build muscle. Prepare short, authentic statements that express your needs or feelings. Practice, "I tend to step back when I'm overwhelmed. I'm trying to be more present. Can we talk about this?" Using a script reduces avoidance and increases clarity. Every evening, write 3 emotions you experienced that day and what triggered them. Add 1 sentence on how you responded to each. Over time, you'll notice themes and build emotional literacy. In a safe setting, practice being the listener. Ask someone to describe a recent emotion and reflect it back. It sounds like you felt because. This strengthens empathy muscles and teaches you how others experience emotional support. Learn brief body-based practices like 5 deep diaphragmatic breaths or progressive muscle relaxation. Somatic grounding increases your capacity to remain present during emotional moments, reducing the urge to flee emotionally. Your communication style can be adjusted to convey availability without sacrificing boundaries. Clear, intentional language prevents misinterpretation. When you expect to be less responsive, say so proactively. For example, I'm likely to be quiet about this topic. It's because I need time to think, not because I don't care. This reduces partner anxiety and prevents assumptions. When someone shares, summarize their content and emotional tone. So you're upset about X and feeling Y. Reflective listening shows engagement, even if you avoid offering solutions immediately. If you need time to process, provide a specific time frame. For example, I need a day to think this through. Can we discuss it tomorrow at 7 p.m.? This respects your processing style while assuring others. Healthy boundaries protect you, but they differ from emotional withdrawal. Boundaries are explicit and negotiated. Withdrawal is avoidance. Be direct about limits and reasons. I can't take phone calls during work hours. Texts work better, and I will reply within 24 hours. This prevents resentment and shows respect for others. Recognize moments when bending a boundary creates relational currency. For example, being present for an important conversation. Occasional flexibility builds trust without undermining autonomy. If someone responds poorly to your boundaries, stay calm and restate the purpose. My boundary helps me stay regulated so I can show up better. Let's find a compromise that works. This frames boundaries as relationally responsible. Some patterns of detachment are entrenched or linked to trauma and require professional intervention. Seeking therapy is a sign of strength and self-investment. You should consult a therapist if you repeatedly sabotage relationships despite wanting change. Also, if you have a history of trauma, emotional numbing, or dissociation, or if your detachment contributes to significant functional impairment. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, is great for identifying avoidance patterns. Schema therapy helps with long-standing relational templates. Somatic experiencing, or EMDR, can address trauma-related detachment. Emotionally focused therapy, EFT, is excellent for couples addressing attachment injuries. You can use targeted tools to strengthen emotional engagement and build new habits. Here's a concise list for immediate action. Consider mood tracking apps like Dailyo or MoodFit to log emotions and triggers. Mindfulness and breathwork apps such as Headspace or Calm can improve present moment tolerance. Journaling apps that prompt emotional reflection are also very helpful. Read Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman for integrating emotion and cognition. Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller helps understand attachment styles. The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk offers trauma-informed somatic perspectives. Incorporate 10 minutes of reflective journaling daily. Practice 5 to 10 minutes of breathwork or grounding before challenging conversations. Schedule weekly check-ins with a trusted friend or partner where you intentionally practice emotional disclosure. Having a structured timeline gives you measurable steps to reduce harmful detachment while honoring your Aquarian identity. Weeks 1 to 2, Awareness and Measurement. Keep an emotional inventory journal daily. Set one small boundary and communicate it clearly to someone close. Weeks 3 through 6, Practice and Experiment. Implement the 3-minute check-in and at least 2 conversations per week. Use the vulnerability script once per week in a low-risk context. Weeks 7 to 12, Consolidation and Scaling. Increase disclosure depth progressively in one key relationship. Schedule weekly reflection to assess what changed and what felt risky. If progress stalls, consult a therapist for targeted work. Here are brief answers to questions people commonly ask when facing detachment issues. No, emotional availability and independence are not mutually exclusive. You can maintain autonomy while communicating needs and limits. This actually enhances genuine independence because it rests on secure interdependence rather than avoidance. Be concise and humble. I want to be more present. I tend to pull away when I'm uncomfortable, and I'm practicing being more available. I appreciate your patience. This reduces defensiveness and invites support. If your partner resists witnessing your change, set clear expectations and a timeline. If resistance persists, consider couples therapy to mediate the process. Persistent unilateral resistance is itself informative about the relationship's viability. These anonymized examples show practical application without dramatic detail. You're an Aquarian manager who avoided team check-ins. After implementing weekly 10-minute reflective sessions and anticipatory framing, team morale and project delivery improved. You maintained autonomy by limiting sessions to 15 minutes. You habitually shut down during conflict. Using a vulnerability script and graded exposure, you gradually shared small feelings first. That reduced partner anxiety and led to more meaningful conversations. You possess valuable Aquarian strengths, vision, clarity, and independence. However, when detachment becomes habitual, it undermines relationships, career progression, and health. The solution is not to abandon your nature, but to calibrate it. Increase awareness, use graded emotional exposure, pair logic with curiosity about feelings, and practice communication techniques that convey availability without sacrificing boundaries. Here are immediate steps you can take right now. Start an emotional inventory journal and record 3 emotions daily. Use the 3-minute check-in in one conversation each day for a week. Prepare a short vulnerability script and use it in a low-risk context. Set one clear boundary and communicate it with timeframe and rationale. If you have a history of trauma or persistent relational difficulties, schedule an initial session with a therapist. Apply these steps consistently for 90 days and monitor the changes in how others respond to you and how you feel internally. Small, intentional adjustments will allow you to retain your independence and enhance the quality of your connections and well-being.